Ontario's PC government, which of course is led by Doug Ford, have announced even more cuts. Now, before I get to this news, I want to remind you of this tweet and really this line that Doug Ford said throughout the election last year. So on May 27th, 2018, he tweeted this out. Quote, "Under our government, not a single person will lose their job." Now, to anybody paying attention to Doug Ford and his history of making promises, his history of talking about cuts and jobs, we all knew at the time that he was lying. And it turns out we were right. Check out the news. An Ontario government memo obtained by CBC News lays out Premier Doug Ford's plan to cut thousands of full-time teaching positions starting this fall. By the 2022 to 2023 school year, there will be 3,475 fewer public teaching jobs. And of course, that will also affect the average class size requirement, which is also going up. And in turn, all of that affects learning with time spent with students, time that teachers spend with students one-on-one will clearly be reduced with class sizes increasing. So this is obvious. I mean, for anybody that did not see this coming, you were watching the wrong news sources. Educate yourselves. This is what happens when you put a fraud in charge of the government. Doug Ford is somebody who was born into wealth. He inherited his business from his dad. He inherited his money. He inherited his popularity. His dad was also an MPP. Doug Ford inherited everything he'll ever need, whether it's money or connections. That's the only reason he is where he is right now. He has no idea what life is like for the average person. Yet somehow people expected Doug Ford to be for the people. You really thought his slogan "for the people" was based in any sort of reality? He is a complete fraud. He is showing you this. He's showing you how much of a liar he is. So if you voted for this party, you were fooled. And it's time to now educate yourself and maybe change your vote next time. So even apart from the cuts to education, actually, before I get to the other cuts, I want to show you that there are at least some people in this province that know what the hell is going on. So this headline from the Toronto Sun: Ontario students stage walkout to protest education changes. So this is one of the few things that gives me hope, that knowing that there are people in this province, even if they're too young to vote right now, there are people in this province that know that Doug Ford is a phony. Now, let me get to the other cuts. So there's also going to be cuts to healthcare. So this tweet from Cynthia Mulligan. Breaking. The Ford government is trying to find close to $500 million in savings from OHIP, which is the Ontario Health Insurance Plan. It's looking at reducing pain injections, some MRIs, sedation for colonoscopies, and more, determining which are overused or unnecessary. A City News exclusive tonight. So let me focus on one of those for a second here. The one that sort of sticks out. Cutting sedation for colonoscopies. This government is literally fucking you up the ass. Now, let me give you some more details on this from City News. Eric Thompson from Crohn's and Colitis Canada says the proposal is not realistic. Quote, "It is unthinkable to have a colonoscopy without sedation," he says. "It's a very uncomfortable, invasive procedure, so it's extremely critical that patients are very comfortable when they are having this procedure." He adds that not having sedation would discourage patients from choosing to have a colonoscopy. So that's the other issue here, is that it's not even just about the sedation part, which clearly is not good, but it's the part that it will discourage people from actually going to get their colonoscopy, which leads to bigger health problems later on. So if you actually have, say, colon cancer and it goes undetected because you didn't choose to go for your colonoscopy because maybe you were afraid of not having sedation, well, that balloons into a much higher cost later on when that cancer advances. So this is not necessarily going to save any money. It's going to make things worse, much worse, because preventative measures in healthcare is what saves money. Now, let me also just mention the proposed reduction in pain management shot. So this will affect people suffering from chronic pain. So this quote from somebody who does suffer from chronic pain. Quote, I get 2 injections in the lobes, 2 in the back of each side of my head. Altogether, from my shoulders down my back and through to my knees, I get 24 injections a week just so I can work and live a life, says Tibor Gaskar, who was hit by a vehicle driven by an impaired driver in 2002. Gaskar was told he would never work again, but has been able to return to work with the assistance of the shots. He says cutting his annual supply to less than his weekly dosage would be debilitating. Quote, I won't be able to work. I know that for a fact. I'm a professional chef. I find I'm struggling right now just working on my feet 12, 15 hours a day. And to have no injections, I'll have to go on disability, he says. Again, showing you that even apart from the impact on actual people, so even if you have no empathy whatsoever, even if you, for some reason, don't have to go for a colonoscopy, even if you don't suffer from any pain like or chronic pain that where you need shots like this, even if you have no empathy for any of these people, this is not going to save money. This will make things worse in terms of healthcare outcomes, in terms of people having to go on disability because they can't work anymore because they don't have the pain management shots that they need. I mean, there is no real justification for any of this. And at the same time that Doug Ford is doing this, he canceled a planned surtax worth $275 million a year on the rich. So he cut taxes for the rich worth $275 million a year while he's trying to cut healthcare to find $500 million in savings. What is there to say here? If you can't put this together yourself, I can't help you. All of this should now be obvious. So from now on, maybe it's time to actually look into who you vote for. And look, if you didn't vote for this idiot, then good on you. But now it's your job to actually inform other people in your family, your friends. Let other people know what this Doug Ford government is actually about.